1834. A clearing in the Ohio country, cut out of hardwood forest. It is the first week of September, and a family has just arrived. Everything they own is in one wagon. They are sleeping under the wagon and under a canvas sheet strung between two trees. The first hard frost in this country comes in October. Snow can come in November and stay until March, which means this man has about 6 weeks to build a house. He has no sawmill. There is not one within 50 miles. And here is the part that stops most people cold. He has almost no nails. In 1834, every nail is made one at a time, by hand, by a blacksmith, over a forge. So he is going to build a house that does not need them. Walls, roof, floor, door, chimney, all of it, out of the trees standing around him. And by the first snow, his family will be warm and dry inside it. These are 15 of the skills that raised a house out of a forest, with no nails and no machines. Almost nobody alive can do them now. Number 12 is the single thing that holds the whole building together, and it is not a nail or a screw. Number 5 is the part that most often burned the house to the ground. And number 1 is not a building skill at all. Subscribe before we start. Number 15. Choosing the ground. Before a single tree came down, the man walked the ground. He wanted high ground, so the water would run away from the house, not into it. He wanted the front door facing south to take the low winter sun all day long. A house sited wrong could not be fixed. It could only be endured. Number 14. Felling the timber. He wanted trees that grew straight and tall, and roughly the same thickness from bottom to top. Chestnut, if he could get it, because it was light, straight, and it did not rot. He cut in the late fall or winter, when the sap was down and the wood was drier. A man alone in the forest with an axe, dropping a tree in the wrong direction, could be killed by it. Number 13. Moving a log that weighs more than a horse. A green oak log, 20 feet long, can weigh well over 1,000 pounds. One man cannot lift it, so he did not lift it. He rolled it, using a long lever and a block of wood, a little at a time. And to get it up onto the wall, he leaned 2 poles against the wall as a ramp, and rolled the log up them. Number 12. The notch. This is the heart of the whole thing. A log cabin is not fastened together. It is stacked, and it holds itself. Every corner is cut with a notch, so that each log locks into the one below it. The simplest was the saddle notch, a rounded cup cut into the underside of each log, dropped over the one beneath. The best was the dovetail. The log ends cut into angled wedges, sloping slightly downward on the outside. That downward slope shed the rainwater out and away from the joint, instead of letting it sit and rot the wood. Not one nail, not one screw, not one drop of glue. Some of those corners are still standing, straight and tight, 200 years later. Number 11. Hewing a round log square. A round log makes a lumpy wall with big gaps. A squared log makes a tight one, so he squared them by hand with an axe. First, he scored the log, chopping notches along its length down to a chalked line. Then he took the broadaxe, a heavy axe with a wide, flat blade, and sheared the waste off in long slabs. The face it left was flat enough to build with, and it carried the mark of every stroke. It is the fingerprint of the man who cut it. Number 10. Wooden pegs instead of nails. Where 2 pieces of wood truly had to be fastened, he did not reach for iron. He made a peg. He bored a hole with an auger, a long hand drill turned by a wooden handle. Then he whittled a peg from dry, hard wood and drove it through. The peg was dry. The timber around it was green. As the green wood dried and shrank, it clamped down tight around the peg and would not let go. A wooden pin in green wood is a joint that gets tighter with age instead of looser. Number 9. Splitting shingles out of a log. The roof needed shingles, and there was no mill to cut them, so he split them straight out of a log, following the grain. He used a froe, an L-shaped blade with a handle, driven down into the end of a short log with a wooden club. Then he levered the handle, and the wood split cleanly along its own grain. Wood split along the grain is far stronger and sheds water far better than wood sawn across it. A roof of hand-split shakes could last 30 or 40 years. Number 8. A roof held down by its own weight. Here is the problem. Shingles are normally nailed down. He has no nails. So he laid the shakes in overlapping rows, and then laid long straight poles across them, from end to end. The whole roof was held down by nothing but the weight pressing on it. They called it a weight pole roof, and it kept the rain and snow off a family for decades. Number 7. Chinking the gaps. No matter how well the logs are stacked, there are gaps between them. In an Ohio winter, those gaps will kill you. So he filled them. First, he wedged in split sticks, stones, and wood chips, packing the gap tight. Then he plastered over the whole thing with a mixture of clay, sand, straw, and sometimes animal hair. That was the chinking and the daubing, and it turned a stack of logs into a wall. And it was never finished. Every single autumn, before the cold came, the family went around the house and patched the chinking again. Number 6. The puncheon floor. The first floor in a new cabin was usually just dirt, packed hard. When there was time, the man laid a puncheon floor. He split logs in half lengthwise, laid them flat side up, and smoothed the surface with an adze. It took skill and it took nerve, because a missed stroke went into your own leg. A puncheon floor was rough and uneven, but it was dry, and it was warm, and it was not dirt. Number 5. The chimney that burned the house down. The fireplace was the heart of the house. It was the heat, the light, and the only place to cook. A man with time and stone built a proper stone chimney, and it lasted forever. But a man in a hurry, in his first season, built what they called a cat and clay chimney, a frame of stacked sticks, plastered thick with mud and clay, inside and out. The mud cracked and fell away, the sticks dried out, and eventually the sticks caught. Chimney fires were one of the most common ways a frontier family lost everything they had. Some cabins were built with the chimney set so it could be pushed away from the wall with a pole if it caught. Number 4. A door with no metal in it. The door was made of thick split planks, pegged together across the back with battens. The hinges were wood. A rounded pin on the top and bottom of the door turned in a socket cut into the frame. The latch was wood too. A bar on the inside that dropped into a wooden catch, and through a small hole above it ran a leather string. Pull the string from outside, and it lifted the bar and opened the door. At night, you pulled the string in through the hole, and the door could not be opened from outside. That is where the old saying comes from. The latch string is always out. It means you are welcome here. Number 3. Building up, not out. A frontier cabin was small, often one room, maybe 16 feet by 18. A family of 6 or 8 lived in it, so they used the space above their heads. Poles were laid across the walls, planks laid on the poles, and that became a loft. The children slept up there, close under the roof, where the heat gathered. They climbed a ladder of pegs driven into the wall, or a simple pole ladder, and a generation of Americans grew up sleeping in one. Number 2. Building the inside of the house too. A table of split planks on pegged legs. Stools with 3 legs, because 3 legs never rock on an uneven floor. Beds built straight into the corner of the room, using the 2 walls as 2 sides of the frame. Ropes strung across the frame, and a mattress tick stuffed with straw or corn husks on top of them. Pegs driven into the wall for everything, because there were no closets and no hooks to buy. A whole household, built out of the same trees as the house. Number 1. The raising. Here is the thing that made all of it possible. A man could cut the logs alone. He could notch them alone. He could hew them alone. But he could not lift them onto a wall by himself, and everyone knew it. So when the logs were ready, word went out, and the neighbors came. They came from miles around, from farms they had built the same way. The men worked the corners and the walls. The women cooked for all of them. A cabin that would have taken a man alone a whole season went up in a day or 2. And nobody was paid, because payment was not the point. The point was that in 6 months or a year, it would be your turn to go and do the same for them. The frontier was not settled by rugged individuals. It was settled by people who understood that alone. None of them could lift the log. That family in the Ohio clearing had their walls up and their roof on before the first snow. The cabin was rough. The floor was dirt that first year. The chimney was sticks and mud, but it held. And they built it with axes, wedges, wooden pegs, mud, and the help of people they barely knew. Almost none of it required a single thing they had to buy. Thousands of those cabins are still standing across this country. Some of them have been lived in continuously for 200 years. We build faster now, and warmer, and better. And that is a real thing. But there is something in a house a man built with his own hands, out of the ground it stands on. The skills are not gone. They are written into every old cabin still standing. If you want more of what America used to know, subscribe. We are digging it back out, one skill at a time.